Evan, once you sign this divorce agreement, there's no turning back. You'll have to return the $5 million and walk away with nothing. Okay. You'll also have to give up custody of the child, and you can never see either of them again. Are you prepared for that? I am. Evan lifted his gaze and locked eyes with Eleanor, his wife. His voice was calm, resolute. The contract is about to expire. Claire and Maya have someone to care for them now. It's time for me to go. Without hesitation, he picked up the pen and signed his name. Eleanor fell quiet for a moment, then let out a long sigh. Since you insist on leaving, I'll keep my end of the deal. I'll arrange for you to go to Houston and resume your aerospace studies. The paperwork will take about a week. As for the divorce, tell Claire yourself. Thank you. Suddenly, his phone buzzed. Evan pulled it out and stared at the screen. It was a photo. Claire stood holding a massive bouquet of roses, her face glowing with joy. Beside her, little Maya, wearing a princess dress, pressed a kiss against Claire's cheek, beaming with happiness. The cruel twist? The man in the photo wasn't Evan. It was Jordan, Claire's first love. 6 years ago, Evan had no choice but to sign a contract with Eleanor. His mother Bella had been on the brink of death, and saving her meant giving up his dream of becoming an astronaut. Through Eleanor, he learned about Claire and Jordan's past. They had grown up together in wealth and privilege, two families from the old money elite. Childhood sweethearts turned inevitable lovers. Then, on her 20th birthday, Jordan vanished without a word. Claire was devastated. She cried so much she went blind, literally. Because Evan's voice sounded eerily like Jordan's, he was brought in as a stand-in. A voice double. A ghost. He let her believe Jordan had never left her side. For a year, Evan cared for her with quiet devotion. And miraculously, Claire regained her sight. But the day she realized Evan wasn't Jordan, she lashed out. She threw him out of her life with a string of venomous words. 1 week later, drunk and desperate, she showed up at his door. Evan, I can't live without you. Marry me. It wasn't until much later that Evan discovered the truth. That day, Jordan had gotten married. Photos of him kissing his new bride were plastered all over their social circle. But Evan didn't fall apart. He didn't rage. Instead, he only loved Claire harder. For 6 years of marriage, Evan had been nothing but devoted. Quiet. Tireless. Unconditionally loyal. He had cared for Claire through every storm, never once asking for anything in return. They had even brought a daughter into the world, a bright, beautiful little girl named Maya. Life had finally settled into a rhythm. Peaceful, almost domestic. Then came the storm. Jordan got divorced. And returned to Brookfield. The moment Claire heard the news, she sped to the airport like a woman possessed. A week later, she was throwing lavish parties in his honor, rented out entire halls, gifted him luxury cars and multi-million-dollar homes like money was no object. Old flames rekindled fast. Too fast. They were suddenly inseparable, constantly in touch. And to speed things up, Jordan did the one thing Evan feared most, he cozied up to Maya. He whispered poison into her ears, carefully peeling back every piece of love Evan had built. Soon, the little girl was calling him Uncle Jordan with the kind of affection Evan hadn't heard in months. And Claire, who wouldn't even boil water a year ago, started cooking just to serve Jordan hot meals. That's when Evan knew. He no longer had a place in this family. But maybe that was fine. In 1 week, he'd be gone for good. Back to his studies. Back to chasing stars instead of begging for love. A crash snapped him out of his thoughts, glass shattering somewhere in the room. He looked up. Eleanor was gone. He hadn't even noticed her leave. He glanced at the table. The divorce papers were still there. He picked them up quietly, tucked them under his arm, and walked out. When Evan got home, Claire and Maya walked in right behind him. He moved on autopilot, just like always. He set down their slippers at the doorway, gently took their coats, and hung them up neatly. "You hungry?" "I'll make something," he offered, voice soft, like muscle memory. Claire didn't even glance at him. She was busy texting, fingers flying, face aglow. Without a word, she headed upstairs to the bedroom. Behind her, Maya scowled. "It's late and there's no dinner?" "I want a cheese cupcake," she whined. "Maya, too much sugar will rot your teeth." "You know you can't eat that," Evan said patiently. Her eyes narrowed. "Are you even my real dad?" she snapped. "Uncle Jordan brings me cupcakes every day. I think you just don't want to spend money on me." She kicked off her shoes and glared at him. "Everyone says you're a pathetic loser. That mom supports you. You won't even buy me a cupcake. Having a dad like you is the worst. I wish Uncle Jordan was my father instead." Her tiny voice, laced with venom, pierced deeper than any adult's insult ever could. Each word hit like a blade. Sharp. Cold. Unforgiving. Evan felt it all land squarely in his chest. The breath gone from his lungs. His hand clutching instinctively over his heart. That was his daughter. His own flesh and blood. The child he had adored for 6 long years. Now repeating Jordan's lies like gospel. Cruel. Unrecognizable. She had forgotten everything. Everything he'd done. And Evan couldn't even blame her. Not really. Claire came down the stairs in a fresh change of clothes just in time to hear Maya's outburst. Her brows knit in annoyance as she shot her daughter a quick glance. "Maya, is that any way to speak to your father? Don't let me hear that again." Then she turned to Evan, her tone cool and detached. "She's just a kid. Don't take it to heart." Her casual dismissal cut deeper than any insult. Evan's fingers curled into his palm. Even now, even in front of their child, she couldn't be bothered to take him seriously. "See? I told you. You can't control me," Maya shouted with a triumphant smirk. She stuck out her tongue and bolted upstairs. "You're useless. You can't even fight back. Pathetic." The room fell into a heavy silence. The warm ceiling lights cast soft shadows on the polished floor, but the air between them felt colder than ever. Evan stood still for a moment, then slowly walked over to the table. He picked up the divorce papers and handed them to Claire. She was lounging on the sofa, her expression now noticeably relaxed, smiling, even. Her fingers danced quickly across her phone screen, eyes locked in. He didn't need to ask. She was texting Jordan. That kind of genuine smile. It had been so long since he'd seen it on her face. But none of it mattered anymore. Once she signed those papers, none of this would have anything to do with him. "Claire," he said evenly, like he was commenting on the weather, "our agreement's up. Let's get divorced." "All right." She didn't look up. Didn't pause. Didn't blink. "Maya stays with you. I won't be seeing either of you again. If you're fine with that, just sign here." "Fine." Same indifferent tone. Same hollow reply. Evan didn't flinch. He was used to it by now. After all, this was how most of their conversations had gone over the years. And now that Jordan was back, Evan's place in this house was more than redundant, it was non-existent. He placed the papers and a pen on the table. Without even glancing up, Claire signed her name without hesitation. As she kept smiling at her phone screen, Evan couldn't hold back anymore. "Claire, did you even hear what I just said?" She blinked out of her trance, visibly annoyed. "You were talking about that charity project again, right? Whatever it is, just handle it yourself next time. Don't bother me with this kind of thing. Evan let out a soft, bitter laugh. Of course. She hadn't been listening at all. Not to the words. Not to the meaning. Not to him. The wife he had poured his soul into. The daughter he had loved with all his heart. And what did he get in return? Neglect. Disdain. A house that didn't feel like home. But it didn't matter anymore. In 7 days, he'd be gone for good. No more Claire. No more Maya. No more pretending to belong. I'm ready. We can go to Uncle Jordan's birthday party now. Maya skipped down the stairs in her pink dress, beaming with excitement. She looked absolutely adorable, bouncing like a springtime ballerina, full of joy. Claire heard her voice and quickly turned off her phone screen. Without a glance at Evan, she reached for Maya's hand, and the two of them walked out the door together. Evan watched them leave, their figures growing smaller with each step. And in that moment, it hit him. The difference between love and indifference was staggering. Today was Jordan's birthday. They remembered that. But not one of them, not Claire, not Maya, had remembered what today meant to him. It was his mother Bella's death anniversary. Evan stood frozen in the silence that followed. Then quietly turned and made his way to the guest room. A black and white photo sat on the table. His mother's portrait. Framed, simple, sacred. "Hey, Bella," he whispered, voice soft but steady. "Don't worry about me. Everything's going well now." He smiled faintly, brushing dust off the frame. "In a few days, I'll take you to see the ocean again. Your favorite place. Sound good?" His tone was gentle, almost childlike. As if she were still alive and listening. But she wasn't. She'd been gone a long time. She died the day of his wedding. The treatments had barely held her together. Her body was failing, too fragile, too broken. The pain had become unbearable. She removed the oxygen tube herself. A day meant to be full of celebration had turned into mourning. An omen. A prophecy, perhaps, of the hollow marriage that would follow. And now, at last, he could walk away. Without guilt. Without regret. Evan carefully wrapped the photo in a piece of black cloth, cradling it like something precious. He stepped out of the room and went upstairs. It took him hours. He packed everything. His own belongings, of course, but also everything that tied him to them. To Claire. To Maya. The wind chimes he had handcrafted for her. The scarf he had knit during her pregnancy. The family portrait they had taken one sunny afternoon, smiling like a normal, happy family. He had tried. God, he had tried. Not just because of the contract. Not just to repay a debt. But because, somewhere deep down, he had hoped this place, this family, could be home. He had wanted to belong. But that had always been a fantasy. When he finished, Evan looked at the pile of boxes on the floor. Then, one by one, he carried them out into the yard. He lit the fire. The flames roared to life, hungry, ruthless. They consumed everything. Every memento. Every trace. Every lie. As he stood in the glow of the blaze, watching his past burn to ash. A sleek red Ferrari pulled up at the curb. Maya hopped out of the Ferrari and wrinkled her nose as she saw the flames still crackling in the burn bin. "Why are you burning stuff out here?" she asked with open disdain. Then, without waiting for an answer, she barked out a command. "Uncle Jordan's house has a leak, so he's staying with us for a while. Go get his luggage, did you hear me?" Her smug, self-important tone landed like a slap. Evan felt something deep inside him twist. Not just hurt. But fury. "I can't. My hand hurts," he said coldly. Maya froze. Her eyes widened in disbelief. "What?" she snapped, pointing a finger straight at him. It was the first time Evan had ever said no to her. And she didn't know how to handle it. At that moment, Claire and Jordan strolled over from the car, just in time to hear the exchange. Jordan looked visibly uncomfortable, guilt etched across his face. He glanced at Claire, voice low, hesitant. "Claire, maybe this isn't such a good idea. I should go. Mr. Hart doesn't seem too thrilled. I really don't want to cause trouble." He turned as if to leave, but Claire grabbed his arm, firm and unyielding. "Don't be ridiculous. I'll carry your bags myself if I have to. This house is in my name. If I say you can stay here, that's all that matters. Evan doesn't get a say in this. You're welcome here, period." Evan let out a small, bitter laugh. "Sure," he said. "Why not stay in my bedroom while you're at it? I've got no objection." What did it matter? This house would be Jordan's soon enough. He was just moving in a little early. Why fight it? As soon as Evan gave the green light, Claire rushed to the car like she'd been holding her breath, terrified Jordan might change his mind. She pulled the suitcases out herself, smiling with relief. Maya, eager to impress, waddled over and grabbed a bag nearly twice her size, struggling to drag it across the pavement. The three of them walked into the house together, laughing, chatting, completely at ease. A picture of warmth. Togetherness. Like they were the real family. Like Evan had never existed at all. "What are you standing there for? Go clean up the room already." Maya's voice was sharp with impatience. "Did you hand-wash my princess dress like I asked? And make sure Uncle Jordan's bed has fresh sheets, no dust, no wrinkles. I'm checking later." She gave the orders like royalty. Like it was her birthright. And maybe, in this house, it had become just that. For years, Evan had played the role of servant without complaint. Sweeping, scrubbing, laundering, down to Maya's delicate clothes, even in the dead of winter. He had made their lives so easy that Claire and Maya had come to expect luxury without effort. They didn't ask. They assumed. But this time, Evan didn't move. His voice was calm, but distant. "My hand's cut. I can't wash anything right now." Claire turned sharply, eyes flicking toward him in disbelief. In all her memories, Evan had never said no to their daughter. Never once. This was the first time she'd heard refusal from his lips. Before she could process it, Jordan dropped his gaze, eyes glistening like he might cry. "It's okay," he said softly. "I'm just a guest. I don't deserve to have Evan prepare a room for me." He clutched his suitcase dramatically, turning as if to leave. Claire rushed to stop him, stepping between the two men, her face darkening with frustration. "Didn't you just agree to this?" she snapped at Evan. "What is this, some kind of tantrum now?" Evan raised his hand and shrugged slightly, voice still neutral. "The cut's deep. And the washing machine's broken. Nothing I can do." The lie rolled off effortlessly. He didn't plan on fixing it. Didn't plan on fixing anything. He was done being the help. Maya's face twisted. She stomped her foot and burst into tears. "You're such a mean daddy. Always with your stupid excuses. You won't even wash my clothes anymore. Do you even love me? Uncle Jordan treats me better than you ever have. You're not even a real dad, you don't deserve me. I hate you." Jordan's eyes flickered, just for a moment, a flicker of smug satisfaction. But he quickly replaced it with a performance of concern. "Maya, sweetie," he cooed, "that's no way to talk to your dad. He's doing his best." "Okay, Uncle Jordan," Maya sniffled, instantly appeased. "Hey, since the washer's broken," he continued smoothly, "how about we head to the mall, buy a brand new one? And while we're there, I'll get you another princess dress." Your favorite. Maya squealed in delight. Yay! You're the best, Uncle Jordan. She wrapped her little arms around his leg, giggling. Claire stood nearby, beaming. She hadn't stopped smiling once. The three of them climbed into the car, their laughter echoing under the sun. They were giddy. Happy. Complete. Except for one thing. The driver's seat remained empty. Evan slid behind the wheel and pulled onto the road. He drove in silence while their joy filled the cabin. Their voices rose and swirled, dancing over the seats like sunlight he could no longer feel. They didn't pause. They didn't lower their volume. They didn't even glance his way. He was just the driver now. No more. They arrived at the mall and headed straight for the largest department store. Claire led the way, her heels clicking confidently across the showroom floor. Jordan, look at this one. It's your favorite brand, remember? You used to love it. Thought you'd feel more at home with something familiar. Even after all these years, she still remembered the things he liked. Down to the brand. Evan stood behind them, silent. Then Claire turned, almost as an afterthought. What do you think, Evan? He didn't even hesitate. Not much, he replied flatly. Why was she asking him? He wasn't Jordan's housekeeper. He'd once chosen to serve his wife and daughter, yes, because love had made it feel like purpose. But Jordan? Jordan was nothing to him. Why should he lift a finger for him? Claire's smile disappeared. She turned toward Evan, irritation rising in her eyes, about to speak. But Evan cut her off. You two take your time. I'm leaving. He didn't wait for a response. Didn't look back. He walked out of that store like the air inside was choking him. Neither of them stopped him. They barely turned their heads. Just gave him a passing glance, then went right back to shopping. As Evan stepped outside, a sudden realization hit him. His phone. He'd left it on the showroom couch. He turned around and headed back. But before he stepped inside, the sound of voices drifted toward him through the massive glass panes. Admiring voices. Jealous voices. Mrs. Sterling is such a beautiful wife. That family is picture perfect, aren't they? They're absolutely stunning together. I'd kill to get a photo with them. No wonder we never see her husband in public. Look at him, he's gorgeous. She's been hiding him. Everyone in town knew Claire was married. But no one had ever really seen her husband. Because Evan had always stayed in the background. Silent. Invisible. Now, those curious, admiring eyes were fixed on Jordan. Drawn to his striking features, his effortless charm. The crowd gathered quickly, whispers blooming like wildfire. And the little girl, she's adorable. Must be 5, maybe 6. Mrs. Sterling and her husband still look like newlyweds. So in love. Ugh, I'm dying of envy. Claire flushed with faux modesty, cheeks tinged pink. She bowed her head with a shy, bashful smile. Not denying it. Not correcting them. Maya clapped her hands gleefully, twirling in place. They let the lie stand. Let the illusion shine. And for a moment, they looked perfect. Evan stood frozen, just outside the glass. Something twisted in his chest. But it passed. Why should he be upset? He was never the real husband anyway. He was Jordan's stand-in. A warm body for the cold years. A biological placeholder. Nothing more than a genetically viable pawn to carry out someone else's fantasy. The contract had reached its end. Jordan was back. And Evan? Evan was expected to step aside. Suddenly, Claire's startled scream pierced the air. Ah! She slipped, just slightly, but Jordan reacted instantly, catching her around the waist before she could fall. Their eyes locked. The world seemed to slow. The moment hung heavy between them, thick with something more than just gratitude. All around them, voices began to rise, playful and insistent. Kiss. 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 A chant. A provocation. Encouraged by the chemistry they clearly couldn't hide. Jordan's gaze flicked casually toward the glass storefront, where Evan stood, still and watching. Jordan's lips curved. He leaned in close, his voice a velvet dare. "Claire, may I?" Beside them, Maya clapped her hands excitedly. "Come on, Mom. Say yes already, kiss him." Claire's lips parted to protest. "Not in public, we should be careful, people are watching." But her cheeks flushed crimson, and she slowly closed her eyes. Jordan's grin widened. He didn't wait. He leaned in and kissed her, bold and unashamed. She gave a token resistance, hands pressed lightly to his chest, as if she might push him away. But she didn't. In the end, she surrendered. Wrapped her arms around his neck and melted into it. From outside, Evan let out a low, bitter laugh. So much for the cold, untouchable CEO persona Jordan loved to project. Turns out he just needed an audience. Evan had seen enough. He grabbed his phone and turned to go, refusing to watch any more of this circus. Behind him, the kiss ended. Claire nestled into Jordan's chest, face glowing with contentment. And just as Evan stepped through the exit, Claire looked up. She caught a glimpse of that familiar back. That retreating silhouette. Her smile disappeared. Panic flickered in her eyes. She pulled away from Jordan abruptly. "Evan?" Jordan's expression darkened. He saw her reaction. Saw what it meant. And he didn't like it. Feigning innocence, he gave a light-hearted chuckle. "What? That was just a joke. Evan's not the kind of guy to get worked up over something so silly, right?" "Of course not," Maya chimed in matter-of-factly. "Uncle Jordan, he's just the nanny my mom hired. And you're her true love. Her first love. Even our grandparents approved. What's a kiss, anyway?" "Maya, that's enough." Claire's voice sharpened, cutting through the moment. She grabbed her purse and took off, weaving through the crowd. The mall was busy, people everywhere, but she scanned every direction until finally. "Evan." He stopped. Turned slowly. Claire's heart thudded in her chest. She braced herself for anger. For confrontation. For blame. But when their eyes met, Evan was calm. His lips pressed into a flat line. And in his eyes, there was no fire. No accusation. Just still water. Quiet. Steady. And far, far away. "That kiss, Jordan, only caught me because I lost my balance." Claire's voice tried for casual, but there was an edge beneath it. Evan said nothing. She frowned. "Why are you just standing there? What's that supposed to mean? Are you blaming me?" There were people watching. "I couldn't embarrass him like that in public." Her voice sharpened. "God, can't you be a little more mature? Stop being so petty." Evan looked her straight in the eyes. His voice was even, clear. "I'm not mad." He didn't blink. "Is there anything else?" Claire froze. She hadn't expected that. She shook her head slowly, stunned, as he got into the car and drove off, without another word. She stood there for a long moment, staring after him. She had never seen him like that before, so composed. So indifferent. And for a reason she couldn't explain, something stirred in her chest. Something uncomfortable. Later, Jordan returned with Maya, both of them carrying shopping bags and chatting like they just stepped out of a movie. Claire didn't say anything more. She rejoined them, and they wandered around the mall for a while longer. By the time they got home, night had already fallen. The porch lights flickered on as they stepped into the villa, their arms full of glossy bags and packages. Claire went straight to work. She unpacked the new toiletries, arranging them neatly on the bathroom counter. She smoothed out the fresh bed linens herself, fluffed the pillows, adjusted the comforter twice. But something didn't feel right. It looked incomplete. She frowned and called out, "Evan, come here for a second." He stepped into the room. "Where are your things?" she asked, glancing around. "Threw them out," he replied. "Bought new ones. Didn't unpack them yet." With that, he turned and walked back into the guest room, closing the door behind him. Jordan stood awkwardly in the hallway, clutching an electric toothbrush still in its box. "Claire, maybe I should just stay at a hotel. It feels like Evan's not exactly thrilled about me being here." Claire waved it off. "Ignore him. He's been acting strange lately. Don't take it personally." "Yeah." Maya chimed in cheerfully. "Uncle Jordan, you should totally stay. Since Dad's sleeping in the guest room now, you can sleep in the master with us. I want you to read me a bedtime story tonight." Jordan hesitated, put on a show of reluctance. Then finally, with a sheepish smile. "Okay. Sure." Later that night, Evan's phone buzzed repeatedly on the nightstand. Message after message. He unlocked it. One voice memo stood out. "Mom says there's a school parent-kid day after tomorrow. Can Uncle Jordan come with us? He made the coolest airplane model ever. All the kids will be jealous." Maya's voice was full of awe. Bright, innocent. And completely unaware of what it meant to him. Attached to the voice note was a photo. Claire, in pajamas, drying her hair. Maya, cradling the plane in her lap. Jordan kneeling beside them, mid-laugh. The three of them looked like a family. The model caught Evan's eye. Something about it felt familiar. The shape. The paint. But models often look alike. Maybe he was imagining things. He didn't think too hard. He switched off his phone. Laid back. Closed his eyes. And, for once, fell asleep without dreaming. In the blink of an eye, 2 days passed. The date of Evan's departure crept closer. He had spent those quiet days holed up in the study, buried in aerospace manuals and old mission notes, feverishly reacquainting himself with everything he had once given up. Downstairs, the noise had been constant. Laughter. Footsteps. Shrieks of excitement. By the third day, it was almost unbearable. The noise clawed at his nerves until finally, he stood. And went to look. Maya was in the living room, bouncing with joy, clutching something in her arms. A plane. A model plane. "Uncle Jordan. You're amazing," she squealed. "I can't believe you made the whole thing." Evan's breath caught in his throat. His eyes narrowed, fast. The room seemed to tilt for a moment. "No. That wasn't just a model. Wait." His voice came out sharper than intended as he strode forward. "You can't take that. Put it down. Pick something else." Maya flinched, holding the model tighter against her chest. Jordan stepped in front of her protectively. "What's your problem? It's just a toy plane. No need to scare the kid." Evan didn't even blink. "That model is mine. It's not a toy. It's important. Give it back." He reached for it. Jordan smirked. "Important," he echoed mockingly. "Funny. Everything you find important, people, things, you end up losing anyway." The smile vanished from Jordan's face. Claire wasn't around. No audience. No mask. And he didn't feel like pretending anymore. Evan stared at him, voice flat. Whether I lose something or not, isn't your concern. He took the model from Maya's hands and held it close to his chest. Frankly, you're not even as valuable to me as this model. Jordan laughed coldly. Yeah? Then go ahead, cling to it. You treat it like gold. No wonder no one wants you. You. Jordan's voice cracked with fury, his jaw clenched tight. You really think you can walk away from all this like some saint? Don't test me, Evan. Just leave. Or I swear, I'll be the one to throw you out. Evan didn't respond. He turned his back and walked away. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. Jordan's eyes narrowed, something dangerous flashing behind them. Then. He staggered suddenly, pretending to trip over the edge of the table. Too fast. Too forceful. Too deliberate. His entire weight crashed forward. Evan barely turned in time. There was no chance to dodge. Thud. They both went down hard. The plane was the first to hit the ground. A sickening crack echoed through the room. Then came the splintering sound, sharp, violent, followed by the soft hiss of silence. Shards of plastic and twisted metal scattered across the floor. Pieces flew out like shrapnel, slicing into their hands and arms. Evan sat frozen for a second, staring at the wreckage. The model. His first successful mission's commemorative replica. The symbol of everything he had once been. The thing he had repaired by hand, after Maya had accidentally snapped a wing years ago. Gone. Reduced to a mangled pile of fragments. Useless. Unrecognizable. Blood beaded along his knuckles. Jordan hissed in pain, cradling his wrist, more annoyed than hurt. But Evan didn't move. His eyes stayed fixed on the scattered pieces. He didn't shout. He didn't flinch. The hurt was deeper than the wound. And no one in the room, not even Jordan, could begin to understand what had just been destroyed. Claire came down the stairs just as everything shattered. In every sense of the word. Her eyes landed on Jordan, sitting on the floor, clutching his knee. Jordan. She rushed to him, panic seizing her voice. Are you okay? Where are you hurt? I'm fine. I think. Jordan winced dramatically, gripping his leg. Ah, damn. Maybe not. Feels worse now. He wasn't even bleeding. Still, he milked it, lips curled, eyes narrowed just enough to seem fragile. And Claire fell for it. This is bad. I'm taking you to the hospital. She crouched beside him, cradling his arm, lifting him as gently as if he were made of glass. Then she turned, to Evan. And her voice was ice. Evan, really? Beating up Jordan behind my back like some coward? How dare you? Evan blinked, stunned. His hand was pressed tightly to the bleeding cut on his forearm, fingers trembling. Even his voice wavered. I hit him, he asked. He took my plane. A model I've kept for years. He pretended it was his, gave it to Maya like it meant nothing. I took it back, that's what happened. The words hung there. Undeniable. Plain. He waited for her to see it. To think. But Claire's voice rose, sharp and scathing. It was a model, Evan. Just a broken old thing. What's more important, some toy, or Jordan? Maybe if you hadn't left it lying around like trash, he wouldn't have touched it. Don't spin it like you're the victim here. You caused this. Exactly. Maya chimed in, arms crossed, eyes blazing. Say sorry to Uncle Jordan right now. Evan stared at them. Both of them. His injured hand pulsed. His chest tightened. He had always thought Claire was sharp, fair, capable of judgment. But now? She couldn't, or wouldn't, see the truth. She didn't even want to. Claire shot Evan one last look. One full of fury, disgust, and something worse, disappointment. "We'll deal with you later." Then to Maya, curt and decisive. "Let's go." The front door slammed shut behind them. The silence afterward was deafening. Evan remained frozen for a moment, staring at the space where they'd stood. Then slowly, wordlessly, he dropped to his knees. And began picking up the shattered pieces of the model. Sliver by sliver. Wingtip. Fuselage. Tiny bolts and gears. Each one cut deeper than the last. His arm throbbed, blood still seeping through the gauze he'd wrapped in haste. The pain was sharp. But the pain in his chest? That was worse. He eventually made his way to the hospital, wrapping his injury as best he could. Now, he sat alone on a bench in urgent care, silent and still. The doctor dabbed disinfectant across the torn skin. Just as the nurse finished wrapping Evan's arm, the sliding doors hissed open. Claire walked in with Jordan and Maya. They passed through the hallway like they were floating. Every head turned. Even the staff couldn't help but whisper. "That's Mrs. Sterling, right?" "Yeah." She was practically in tears earlier. Called the whole floor down to take care of her husband, like she runs the place. "You didn't see the VIP suite upstairs? Every imported med we had went straight up there." She wouldn't take no for an answer. God, if I had a wife like that, I'd never complain about anything again. Evan heard every word. He didn't look up. Just sat there, stone still. A bitter laugh rose in his throat. Wife of the year, huh? Yeah. The same woman who'd wrapped herself in another man's arms. Who'd watched her husband get falsely accused, humiliated, and discarded like he was nothing. Yes, truly an exceptional woman. Exceptional at betrayal. As soon as the bandage was secure, Evan left the hospital without a word. His phone buzzed with a new notification. An email. Admittance confirmed. The Aerospace Academy had sent over his acceptance letter. Despite his successful past flight, the program required him to submit a fresh technical paper, just to prove his skills hadn't gone stale. No problem. He threw himself into it. That entire day, Evan locked himself in the study, lost in star maps, propulsion theories, updated orbital dynamics. The silence of the room was a bomb. The numbers made sense. They didn't lie. He only glanced at his phone once. Instagram had exploded with new photos. Jordan, Claire, and Maya at the school's parent-child event. The school staff had reshared them. So had Maya's teachers. Jordan held the paper airplane in one hand, Maya in the other. Claire was smiling like the world had finally fallen into place. Evan didn't flinch. Didn't sigh. You can only feel so much pain before it calcifies into nothing. He locked the phone again and kept reading. Days passed. Neither Claire nor Maya came home. Evan didn't mind. Solitude had become his sanctuary. Then, the final day arrived. His flight was hours away. A new message lit up his phone, boarding reminder. He shut his laptop, emailed off the first draft of his aerospace essay, and headed to the Sterling estate. He needed to pick up his travel documents from Eleanor. The moment he stepped through the gates, he heard her before he saw her. Maya, sitting on the velvet sofa in the front parlor, swinging her legs and grinning like a princess. In her hand was a slice of cheesecake, half melted, half smeared across her plate. "Uncle Jordan is the best. He bought me cheesecake, Dad never lets me have any," she boasted to a circle of younger kids seated around her. "I want him to be my new dad. My real dad." The other children looked on with envy, staring hungrily at the cake in her lap. Then she spotted Evan. Her smile vanished. Her lips curled into a pout. Ugh. What's he doing here? She muttered loud enough for everyone to hear. The party's already over. Grandma's birthday was yesterday. Why is the bad dad even here? Evan froze. He had forgotten. With everything swirling around him, he'd missed Eleanor's birthday. Regret twisted inside him like a knife. Whatever else had changed, she had always treated him with decency. I'll apologize, he told himself. I'll make it right. Evan didn't respond. Maya's expression twisted in frustration. She grabbed the nearest glass off the table and hurled it with all her strength. Get out, she screamed. No one wants you here. Don't even think about telling Grandma anything. You'll just ruin Mom and Uncle Jordan's relationship. Thud. The glass struck his temple. Hard. Evan's vision blurred. A dull ringing filled his ears. He staggered back a step, clutching the side of his head. For a moment, he could only stare at Maya. This girl, his daughter. The one he had raised, bathed, carried on his shoulders, stayed up nights for. And now, she looked at him like he was the enemy. The pain wasn't just physical. It was something deeper. Ripping through his chest like a slow, cold blade. Maya, what are you doing? Claire's voice rang out as she rushed into the room, eyes wide with alarm. She spotted Evan, bleeding, dazed, and immediately reached for him. Evan, are you okay? There's first aid upstairs. Let me help you. But before she could touch him, her phone buzzed. A voice came through the speaker. Jordan. Claire, he whimpered. I twisted my ankle. It really hurts. Can you come up? Please. Claire looked between Evan and the phone. Her hand hovered mid-air. Her mouth opened, then closed. Evan, Evan gave her a small, exhausted smile. You should go. He stepped back, avoiding her touch. I can handle this. He reached for the staircase railing, his fingers gripping tight. Maya just ran off. Better make sure you don't lose her too. Claire hesitated for only a second. Then she turned. And ran. Didn't look back. Didn't say a word. Upstairs, Evan finally reached the top and knocked on Eleanor's door. She opened it and gasped at the sight of blood running down his temple. Evan. What happened? You're bleeding, come in, let me clean that. He shook his head. I'm just here for my documents. You're leaving now? Yes. Eleanor looked at him for a long moment, then sighed and handed him a sealed folder. You've done more than enough all these years, she said softly. If you ever need anything, call me. I mean it. Evan nodded. Thank you. Anne. I'm sorry for missing your birthday. He meant it. Then he turned and left. Outside, a fine drizzle blanketed the city. Gray clouds drifted low across the skyline, cloaking the rooftops in mist. Evan stood in front of the terminal, his suitcase by his side. He tilted his face toward the sky. The rain kissed his skin, light and cold. But he didn't feel heavy anymore. Didn't feel stuck. For the first time in years, he felt free. The man he had been, Evan the husband, Evan the shadow, Evan the substitute. That man was gone. Ahead of him now lay a new horizon. Bright. Unknown. And fully his. He turned for one last look behind him. The past. Then turned back again, his spine straight, his steps steady. And walked through the gates toward the future. Never looking back. Half an hour later, Jordan emerged from the clinic with a fresh cast wrapped around his foot. Claire pushed him in a wheelchair through the sterile hallway, guiding him gently into a private recovery room. Jordan, just rest for now, she said softly. I'll bring Maya by when I can. Evan's injured too. I need to check on him. But even as she spoke, her thoughts raced. That look Evan gave her before she turned away. The calm, almost indifferent expression. It unsettled her more than any anger could. Something inside her twisted. Unease. Urgency. She just wanted to get Jordan settled and then find Evan as fast as possible. Jordan, watching her so anxious over another man, felt something cold stir in his chest. Jealousy. Sharp. Poisoned. He reached for her hand, gripping it tightly. Claire, could you stay with me tonight? His voice was low. Intimate. I spent years thinking about you, every day, every night. If I hadn't left back then, maybe we would have made it. His eyes shimmered with regret. Leaving was the biggest mistake of my life. That woman I married, she was controlling, cruel. I finally escaped her, and came back, hoping maybe, just maybe, you'd still be mine. Claire's expression shifted. She pulled her hand away, firm but not harsh. Jordan, don't do this. I'm happy with my life now. Whatever happened between you and that woman, Evan, and I won't ignore it, but this isn't the way. She turned and walked out, her steps fast, clipped. The birthday banquet had long ended. Claire searched every corner of the estate, but Evan was nowhere to be found. Her unease grew with every passing minute. Tightened in her chest like a fist. She rushed home, breath short with panic. Evan? She called out. Again. And again. No answer. Just silence. Finally, the butler returned from a grocery run, startled to see her alone. Miss Claire? I thought Mr. Hart went to the party with you. Didn't he come back with you? Her heart dropped. What? That didn't make sense. Normally, even if Evan was injured, he'd return quietly, clean the house, wash clothes, never once complained. Never once disappeared without a word. But now? Now he was playing vanishing acts. Claire's confusion hardened into irritation. Then anger. Call him. Her voice was sharp. Tell him to come back right now. Or not at all. She stormed upstairs, jaw clenched. But the moment she opened the bedroom door, something felt wrong. Different. Lighter. Her eyes scanned the room. And then it hit her. The closet. Empty. No shirts. No shoes. No ties. Gone. Her eyes darted to the nightstand. The wedding certificate, once proudly framed and hung by the bed, was gone too. Everything Evan had once owned, touched, shared with her, gone. Didn't he say he bought new things? Why weren't they unpacked? Her breath caught. Then her gaze locked on the desk. There, resting atop a single sheet of paper, was something small. Lonely. A wedding ring. His. Left behind like a period at the end of a sentence. Claire clutched the diamond wedding ring in her palm, her knuckles turning white. She tore open the envelope. Her eyes widened. Divorce agreement. The bold header screamed back at her like a slap to the face. She froze. For a moment, the words didn't register. Couldn't. Then rage took over. Her expression darkened. She crumpled the pages into a tight ball and hurled it into the trash. Evan, she hissed, you really think you're something now, don't you? So he was going to repay every dollar spent over the years? Fine. But giving up custody of her daughter? His daughter? That's what made her pause. She flipped to the final page. And there it was, her signature, clear as day. Claire Sterling. She stared at it in disbelief. She remembered Evan handing her something a few days ago to sign. She hadn't looked. She'd been texting Jordan at the time. She thought it was some charity form or minor legal document. She had signed away their marriage without even noticing. 6 years. 6 years of quiet loyalty. Of folding laundry and cooking late dinners. Of school runs and silent forgiveness. Evan had been her shadow. Her anchor. Her doormat. And now he just left? No, it couldn't be real. It had to be one of his tricks. Another dramatic gesture. He'd be back. He always came back. No one loved her like Evan. No one else had ever been willing to lose their pride just to stay in her orbit. And Evan? He loved her beyond pride. He always had. Claire stumbled downstairs like a ghost, dropped onto the couch, and waited. And waited. Night swallowed the house. The lights dimmed. The silence thickened. Still, no Evan. Not even a sound. Her assistant called just before midnight. "Mrs. Sterling," he said, his voice hesitant, "we've checked every hospital, train station, airport, even Mr. Hart's family residence. Nothing. It's like he vanished." Claire stood up so suddenly she nearly dropped the phone. "What?" "Keep looking," she snapped, her voice rising. "Don't stop until you find him. I don't care what it takes." Her usual composure was gone. Hands trembling, voice shaking. She opened her contacts. Found Evan's number. Hovered her thumb above it. She hesitated. Then pressed dial. Ring. 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 "The number you have dialed is not available. Please try again later." She tried again. And again. She switched to messaging apps. Blocked. Everywhere. Not a single route left open. That's when it hit her, really hit her. He hadn't disappeared. He had erased her. Claire stood motionless in the entryway, her chest rising and falling with shallow breaths. She turned toward the door. She'd go find him. Right now. She'd go to his favorite cafe. His late-night bookshop. The places he always. She stopped. Her foot hovered in midair. Where? Where did Evan go when he was alone? What did he do to relax? Who were his friends? She realized, with horrifying clarity. She didn't know. She didn't know anything. Not his favorite food. Not his routines. Not his world. He had given her everything. And she had never bothered to learn who he was. Just then, the front door burst open. Maya strode in, trailed by a gaggle of school friends, her voice high and impatient. "Hey, loser dad, did you cook? I'm starving." Claire whipped around, her nerves already frayed. "What did you just say?" "Your father is missing." Her voice was sharp, strained with disbelief and exhaustion. But Maya didn't flinch. She just threw her arms up and cheered. "Finally. That pathetic loser's gone?" "Yes. That means Uncle Jordan can move in for real now." And then, like someone had flipped a switch, she launched into a stream of insults. Vile. Cruel. Unforgivable. Each word sharpened like a dagger. Claire's heart pounded as she stared at her daughter. Her voice low and trembling. "Maya, where are you getting this from? He's your father." She couldn't believe it. 6 years of tender care, of bedtime stories and hand-packed lunches. How had that turned into this? But then, she remembered. Maya hadn't always been like this. Not until Jordan returned. Not until he started whispering things in corners. Little rewrites of the truth. Claire stepped forward, eyes burning. "He loved you. He raised you. And this is how you talk about him?" Maya huffed and crossed her arms. He deserved it. He embarrassed us. He tried to ruin Grandma's birthday, and then ran off like a coward. Her voice cracked into something almost gleeful. Too bad that glass didn't hit him harder. Enough. Claire's voice thundered through the room. She was trembling. Every muscle clenched. You don't get to say that. He gave you everything. 6 years of his life. Every meal. Every night you cried. And now you call him names? She took a step closer. Tell me the truth. Who taught you to speak like this? Maya shrank back. The rage she wore so proudly moments ago vanished. Her voice came out small. Uncle Jordan said, if the other kids found out I had a dad who lived off Mom's money, they'd laugh at me. That I'd get bullied. Claire's stomach dropped. And then her phone rang. She snatched it up. It was her assistant. Mrs. Sterling, Jordan's bankruptcy just went public. We confirmed it. He's been conspiring with his ex-wife, Jasmine. This whole return. It was a setup to gain access to your assets. I repeat, do not trust him. The phone slipped from her hand. It hit the floor with a dull clatter. Claire's eyes went wide. She staggered backward. Jordan. The man she had once dreamed about. The man she had nearly traded everything for. Had lied. Had plotted. Had turned her daughter against her father. Had driven away the only man who had ever truly loved her. And Evan. After everything. Would he ever come back? She didn't know. She didn't even know where to begin. That night, she issued a command. All of Sterling Corporation's private security. All personal connections. Private investigators. Local contacts. International agencies. Find Evan Hart. Whatever it takes. She turned over every stone. Searched every corner. But days passed. One after another. And Evan? Still gone. As if he had stepped off the face of the earth. Claire slammed the car door and bolted inside. Her heels echoed down the polished hallway of the Sterling estate as she made a beeline for the study. She didn't knock. Mom, where's Evan? Her voice was rushed, shaky. Did he come here the night of the party? Inside, Eleanor sat at her writing desk, her pen frozen mid-sentence. She didn't look surprised. It was as if she'd been expecting this. She set the pen down quietly, folded her hands, and exhaled. Claire, let him go. Her tone was calm. Final. There was never any real love between you and Evan. Not like what you had with Jordan. She looked up, gently. I watched you two grow up together. You and Jordan always belonged together. Maybe this is just how it was meant to end. Claire's breath caught. Mom, why is everyone suddenly trying to push me into Jordan's arms like it's some kind of fairy tale reunion? Her voice cracked, more frustration than pain, but the edges were softening. Yes. I won't lie. Jordan was important to me. He still is, in a way. She paced. But I'm still married. Evan is still my husband. Her voice sharpened. And more than that, whatever Jordan and I were. I would never betray my marriage. Not like that. Not before it was over. Eleanor's face froze. A pause. Wait. Her voice faltered. You're not divorced. Claire blinked. Swallowed. Couldn't speak. Eleanor's gaze narrowed. Then, why was your name on the divorce agreement? Claire looked away. Her silence said it all. She didn't need to explain that she'd signed something without reading it. That she hadn't even paused to ask what Evan had handed her. The truth was worse than negligence. It was indifference. And now, the guilt landed hard. She remembered how Evan had cared for her. The way he always knew when her mood dipped, he'd distract her with little hand-carved figurines, odd but endearing. The soft way he'd wake early to cook for her every morning, tailoring the meals to her appetite when she barely touched food. He had watched her. Learned her. Loved her. Not out of duty. Out of choice. Out of something deeper. And what had she given him? Commands. Silence. Neglect. A signature on a document she hadn't even read. The realization hit her like a sudden drop in temperature. Life without Evan? She couldn't imagine it. Her chest tightened. Her eyes stung. And for what? For Jordan? For a man who had walked away once, and returned with a lie. She felt sick. Eleanor's voice broke through her spiraling thoughts. Soft. Regretful. She opened a drawer, pulled out a folded file. I wasn't going to tell you. She hesitated. I had hoped, if Evan left, maybe the story would just end. She pushed the folder across the desk. But you deserve the truth. Claire picked it up with trembling hands. Eleanor continued. The day Jordan left you, married someone else, I saw what it did to you. You fell apart. I couldn't watch you drown. So I found someone who could be there for you. Someone who already loved you. Claire stared at her mother, stunned. The words hit like waves. Eleanor nodded. Evan didn't agree to it easily. But I saw the way he looked at you. The way he talked about you. He wanted to help you, more than that, he wanted to be with you. Claire's ears rang. Her vision blurred. The truth crashed over her like a tidal wave. It had never been just a contract. Not for Evan. Not ever. And all this time. She had been blind to it. She staggered back a step, breath caught in her throat. Because now? Now he was gone. And she didn't know if it was already too late. So that was the truth. All this time, Claire had believed Evan married her for the money, for the sterling name, for security. But in reality, he had been drowning. Desperate to save his mother. And she had mistaken a son's sacrifice for a schemer's ambition. She had stomped on his sincerity. Shattered it beneath her heels, over and over again. How many times had she left him? Chosen someone else? Turned her back while he stayed behind, cooking dinner, folding laundry, patching up school projects, enduring it all without a word? She couldn't even begin to imagine how many silent heartbreaks he had swallowed. How many lonely nights he had stood in doorways, watching her retreat into someone else's world. Until finally, Jordan came back. And Evan saw everything for what it was. That he had never truly belonged. And so, he left. Not in anger. But in quiet devastation. The way only someone who once loved deeply could walk away. Claire's hands shook. Tears blurred the page she was still clutching, now wrinkled, nearly shredded from her grip. Mom, she whispered, voice cracking. You have to tell me where he is. Please, I have to explain. Her eyes were pleading. I swear, there's nothing between me and Jordan. It was just, old memories. I was being polite, not careful. She looked down, breathing hard. But Evan, if he comes back, I'll do anything. I'll fix everything. I'll change. Eleanor studied her. Her proud, unshakable daughter, who had once stood at the altar like she owned the world. Now trembling like a child who had lost everything. She hadn't seen Claire like this since Jordan left the first time. And now? This was worse. Back then, it was heartbreak. This time, it was regret. Eleanor exhaled, her voice soft. I never thought it would come to this. She walked to her desk, opened a drawer, and pulled out a folded note. Held it for a moment, then handed it over. He did stop by, the night of the party. She paused. I could see it in his eyes, he was already halfway gone. Claire gripped the paper like it might vanish if she let go. Where did he go? Eleanor hesitated. I tried to keep tabs on him. Had people watching. Her voice dropped. But he slipped them. Clean. Claire's heart sank. The edges of her vision blurred. He wasn't just gone. He had erased every breadcrumb behind him. Because he didn't want to be found. Eleanor's voice softened. Claire. Evan never wanted wealth. Or status. Or to play house in someone else's mansion. All he ever wanted was to fly again. A beat. And Houston's the only place left that can make that dream real. At those words, something in Claire's eyes sparked. Faint. But unmistakable. Hope. She straightened. Spoke quickly. Get the jet ready. We leave today. There was no hesitation now. Only one thing mattered. She was going to find him. Even if she had to cross the country. Even if he never wanted to see her again. She had to try. As soon as Claire stepped through the door, she was met with the sound of laughter. Jordan and Maya, walking in from the garden, side by side, laughing like nothing had ever gone wrong. Claire. You're back, Jordan beamed. What took you so long? I've been waiting for you. His voice was syrupy. Too smooth. Claire's expression froze. Her gaze locked onto him, sharp and cold. Why would I come see you? She asked flatly. You're no one to me. The words hit like a slap. Jordan blinked. His smile faltered. He tried to recover, stepping toward her with practiced concern. Claire, what's wrong? You look pale. Are you sick? Maybe I should take you to the hospital. Get out. Her voice cut through the room like a blade. I don't want to see your face again. He froze mid-step. That voice, so filled with disgust, was one he'd never heard from her before. And since Evan left, it had only gotten colder. Jordan seethed inwardly. What the hell did that loser say to her before leaving? Still, he kept up the act. Claire, my leg, it's getting worse. The pain's unbearable. Please, help me. She didn't even look at him. She turned away and began packing. Methodically. Deliberately. He was invisible now. Maya's face twisted with indignation. Mom. Uncle Jordan is hurting. And you're just packing, she whined. You always cared when he was sick before. What happened to you? Dad's gone. I want Uncle Jordan to be my new daddy. Claire turned. Slowly. Her voice was deadly calm. Shut your mouth. Maya's jaw snapped shut in shock. Claire's eyes burned. Your father is gone because you drove him away. And now you want to pretend this liar is some kind of hero? She turned to Jordan. If I ever find out you've been poisoning my daughter's mind again, so help me, I will make you wish you were dead. Sweat gathered along Jordan's temples. Claire. I don't know what you're talking about. His voice quivered, smile cracking. You're scaring me. Don't play innocent with me. She was done pretending. She strode across the room, grabbed his crutch, and slammed it to the ground. The plaster cast around his leg shattered instantly, revealing nothing more than a faint, fingernail-sized scab. Already healing. Jordan froze. Everything in him went still. Claire stepped closer, voice low and lethal. I was going to wait. I was going to deal with you after I found Evan. But you clearly couldn't help yourself. So let's get something straight, your game is over. Jordan went pale. The chill in her voice was colder than anything he'd ever heard. But he rallied. He dropped to his knees. "Claire, please, listen to me. Evan never deserved you. He was never enough. But me? I've loved you since we were kids. You and me, it was always meant to be." From his pocket, he pulled a small velvet box. Snapped it open. Inside, a ring. Thin. Cheap. Dull. Still, he looked up with tears in his eyes. "Marry me. I'll take care of you and Maya. Forever." He knelt at her feet like a man begging for oxygen. Claire looked down at him. And her face didn't flinch. Not even a flicker. Jordan's eyes shimmered with false tenderness, like a predator playing docile. Claire's expression only grew colder. Without a word, she pulled a folder from her bag, thick with damning evidence, and slapped it across his face. The papers flew like knives, scattering across the floor. "Forever?" Her voice was ice. "Is this your idea of forever?" Her tone sharpened with every word. "At 20, you left me to chase a better life overseas with Jasmine. Now you're back, neck deep in debt, trying to steal from me to clean up your mess." She shook her head, eyes burning not just with rage, but with heartbreak. Not for him. For herself. "I threw away a man who loved me more than his own dignity, for you?" Her disgust was palpable. "I should be ashamed of myself." Jordan's knees scraped across the floor as he lunged forward, hands trembling, eyes wide with panic. "No. Claire, please, those documents are fake. I swear. I'm being framed. I didn't mean to, please, believe me." She didn't flinch. Didn't blink. She gave a single wave of her hand. 2 guards stepped forward. "Return him to Jasmine." Her voice was a command. Jordan paled. "No, Claire, don't do this to me. Please. I was wrong. I admit it. I'll change, just don't hand me over to her." But she had already turned away. She'd wasted enough words on him. The truth was laid bare, Jasmine had used him and gotten nothing in return. Her twisted love had curdled into resentment. Now, with creditors circling and Jordan no longer useful, she'd devour him. That was his fate, and Claire had no more pity to spare. "Claire!" Jordan's scream cracked as he was dragged away. "Don't let her have me. Claire, please." But the door slammed behind him. The silence afterward was louder than the screaming. Claire turned slowly. Maya stood frozen by the stairs, stunned and pale. Claire's voice came quiet, but firm. "This is my fault. I let you grow up thinking there were no lines. That money bought everything. That kindness was weakness." She walked over to her daughter. "That ends today." Her eyes bore into Maya's, not cruel, but unflinching. "We're going to find your father. And you're going to apologize. In person." Maya didn't dare argue. For the first time, she truly understood. Her mother had changed. And this time, there would be no second chances. Houston. Aerospace Academy. Evan had just wrapped up his lecture and was strolling along the cherry blossom-lined path, petals drifting gently around his feet. From behind came the sound of hurried footsteps. "Evan, wait up." Nate jogged up beside him, panting heavily. "Man, you walk like you're on a mission. I almost lost you." In a place like this, where familiar faces were few and far between, their old connection felt even more valuable. Nate waved his phone dramatically. "Look at this, Sterling's been turning the world upside down trying to find you. Booted that other guy out too. She's been to at least 5 aerospace campuses asking for you. Even offered a fat reward on TV to anyone who can give her a lead." Evan glanced at the screen with mild disinterest. I figured. The names Claire and Maya no longer stirred anything in him, no anger, no longing. Just quiet. He'd known Eleanor would crack eventually. So instead of heading to the academy she arranged, he'd contacted Nate directly and taken a different path. Nate scoffed, his voice rising with indignation. After everything you did for them, the way they tossed you aside for that scumbag, she's got nerve showing her face now. If she dares show up here, I swear to God, I'll. Evan laughed softly. You sound more traumatized than I am. Relax. I need to head back. Alice is probably hungry by now. Alright, see you tomorrow, Nate said, still fuming on his behalf. The grove around them rustled in the wind, a canopy of pink and green whispering peace. Evan rounded the bend and stepped through the small wooden gate of his rented home. Blossom petals scattered across the stone path. On the patio, a tea set rested beneath a wisp of rising steam. Evan. You're back. A warm voice called out. The front door swung open as Zoe rushed toward him, her face lit with joy. At her feet, a chubby ragdoll cat purred and rubbed against Evan's legs. He crouched down and scooped her up. Alice, did you sneak off and charm food out of someone again? He gently wiped a few crumbs from the cat's whiskers before looking up at Zoe. Sorry about that, Miss Harper. She's been bothering you again. Zoe blinked, caught off guard by his smile. His gentleness, always quiet, never forced, had a way of pulling the air from the room. No trouble at all, she said, brushing her hair behind one ear. I actually like having her around. Evan caught the flicker of emotion in her eyes. He knew. But he couldn't return it. Not now. Not yet. Thanks again. You should head back, it's getting late. Zoe hesitated for a moment, then gave a small nod and stepped away. This little villa, quiet, detached, tucked between woods and silence, was hers, actually. He'd rented it from her after Nate helped set things up. The first day he moved in, the sky had poured rain. Alice had been a soaking, shivering bundle near the gate, barely alive. He nursed her back to health, and she stayed. Since then, the cat had claimed the house as hers, and second only to Evan, she seemed most attached to Zoe, often slipping through the hedge next door for snacks and attention. It wasn't much. But for now, it was peace. You. Just one word, cold and clipped, yet it sliced right through her. Zoe's face crumpled in frustration. She stomped her foot, voice rising. Why do you always push me away like this? Even if we can't be together, can't we at least be friends? Ever since she confessed her feelings, Evan had been avoiding her like the plague. Was she really that unbearable? Evan didn't look up. He ran his fingers slowly through Alice's fur, his expression unreadable beneath the shadows cast by the soft hallway light. I'm a divorced man, Zoe. You're still young. You need to learn to avoid complications. Years ago, maybe, he might have let himself fall into something tender. But not now. Now he was tired. Too tired to love, too tired to try again. Somewhere deep down, he hoped Zoe would find someone kinder, warmer, less shattered than him. She stared at him, stunned. Then stepped back, her voice trembling but fierce. No. I'm never giving up on you. Never. She spun on her heel and bolted down the path. Evan watched her go, sighed softly, and shut the door behind him. Inside, the scent of spicy stir-fried beef filled the air. On the table sat his favorite dinner, tacos still steaming under the kitchen light. All those years married to Claire, not once had she, or even Maya, noticed what he liked to eat. He'd given them everything. Day after day, he'd poured himself into their comfort, cooking, fixing, supporting, yet not once had either of them truly seen him. And yet Zoe, In barely a month, she'd picked up on all the details, all the small preferences that even family had overlooked. If things had been different. If she had been the one beside him all those years. Would the ending have looked anything like this? A sharp knock cut through his thoughts. Probably Zoe again, forgetting something. Did you forget? He swung open the door, and froze. There they were. Two faces he hadn't seen in what felt like a lifetime. Two faces he'd spent so long trying to escape. Claire stood there, hair tangled and damp, clothes clinging to her skin, streaked with sweat and exhaustion. Maya clung to her side, just as disheveled. They looked wrecked. They had been searching for 3 days straight, chasing scraps of information from locals, tracing rumors of Evan's last sighting, until finally, they landed here. Evan's eyes narrowed. Without a word, he slammed the door shut. Thud. Claire jumped and shoved her hand between the frame and the door. Evan, wait, just hear me out. The door caught her fingers. She gasped as pain bloomed in her hand, her skin turning red and swollen instantly. Ah. But Evan didn't move. Not yet. Ms. Sterling, there's nothing between us anymore. You don't owe me an explanation. Evan's voice was cool, too cool. Every syllable flat and emotionless, like a door quietly closing forever. Claire ignored the sting in her swollen hand and reached out to grab his sleeve in a panic. It's been a month, Evan. Isn't that enough? You've made your point. Please, stop being mad. Just come home, okay? Whatever you want, I'll give it to you. If you like this kind of little garden house, I'll buy you 10 of them. If you still want to be an astronaut, I'll bring in private instructors to teach you at home. And that broken model jet, you remember? I had it fixed. Look. Evan cut her off mid-sentence. Enough, Claire. We're divorced. Stop showing up here. Just then, Zoe came hurrying around the corner. She took one look at the scene, marched straight over, and looped her arm possessively through Evan's. Her eyes locked onto Claire and Maya like twin daggers. You need to leave. Both of you. You're not welcome here. The intimacy of the gesture, the familiarity in her touch, ignited something hot and wild in Claire's chest. No. Evan had always been hers. No one else could have him. Before she could unleash the fire rising in her throat, Maya stepped forward, eyes red and glassy, her tiny hands clenched into fists. She lunged. Let go of my dad, you witch. He belongs to Mommy. You're the one ruining our family. A month's worth of buried guilt, confusion, and fear exploded all at once. Maya shrieked, her voice cracking with raw emotion, and shoved Zoe hard. You're a homewrecker. A bad woman. Go away. Zoe stumbled backward, her back slamming against the cold metal gate with a sickening thud. Her breath caught, tears welled in her eyes, not from the impact, but from the words. That cruelty, from such a small, sweet-looking girl? How much pain had Evan endured all these years to raise a child like this? She opened her mouth to speak. Slap. The sound rang out across the yard like a gunshot. Maya froze, stunned, her hand flying to her cheek. You hit me? You hit me for her? For this terrible woman? Am I even your daughter anymore? Slap. Another one. Harder this time. Firm and deliberate. The trees rustled as a breeze passed through, and dry leaves tumbled to the ground. Then, silence. Claire stood frozen, stunned beyond words. In all the years she had known Evan, she had never seen him lose his temper like this. But today, she saw something break. And it wasn't just in his daughter. It was in the man she once thought would love her forever. Where did you even learn to talk like that? Evan's voice was tight, cold, every word a deliberate effort to hold back a deeper fury. Maya, I've loved you. I've given you everything I had, all my time, all my heart. And this is what you've become? If I don't correct you today, the world will teach you in ways far harsher than I ever could. He took a breath, eyes sharp as steel. And one more thing, Maya, as of today, we are no longer father and daughter. The word struck like thunder. Maya stood frozen, blinking up at him, her lips trembling. And then the dam burst. She let out a wail and ran straight into Claire's arms. Mommy. Daddy says he doesn't want us anymore. But just as she flung herself forward, Claire's palm whipped through the air. Slap. Crying? That's all you know how to do now? Her voice trembled with fury. You're scared now? Where was that fear when you were helping set your father up over a few measly bucks? Maya stared in stunned disbelief. Even her mother, who had spoiled her, shielded her from everything, was yelling at her now. And just like that, it clicked. The pain Evan had endured when that glass cup shattered against his back. She felt it now. For the first time, she understood. Claire looked toward Evan, her eyes brimming, her voice brittle. Evan, it was both of us. We were wrong. Please, please forgive us. Come home. We need you. Her proud posture crumbled. Even her voice lost its edge. There was nothing left of the once glamorous Ms. Sterling, only a woman begging to keep her family together. I know we took you for granted. We thought everything you did for us was just your duty. But we were wrong. We see that now. I'm begging you, don't give up on us. But Evan's eyes didn't soften. They fell instead on the old, cracked model airplane sitting on the edge of his desk. The one Claire had mentioned fixing. Claire, he said quietly, some things, once broken, can never be made whole again. Just like that model, you can glue the pieces back together, but the cracks will always be there. Some damage can't be undone. Why? Claire's voice cracked, laced with disbelief. Evan, you loved me. You said you loved me the most. And now I've come for you. I'm here. Let's go home. Let's live the life we were meant to have. No more running. No more leaving. But Evan didn't move. Because now he saw the truth for what it was. Claire had always known he loved her. And she'd used it like a weapon. She'd tossed him scraps, just enough to keep him begging for more, like a dog waiting at her feet. Not anymore. He wouldn't play that part ever again. Evan gave a calm, almost weightless shake of his head. No. I'm not going back. Not now, not ever. His voice was steady, too steady. From the very beginning, it was all just a contract. Even our marriage was a transaction. The mistake was mine, I took the role too seriously. He looked up at Claire, gaze sharp but devoid of heat. Kids like me, born in families that barely made it through, we don't belong in your world. We're not meant to touch luxury, not even by accident. Being your stand-in husband was already a gift from the gods. He laughed bitterly, voice lined with steel. Who am I to deserve an apology from Ms. Sterling? Who am I to cling to a position that never belonged to me? Love, the kind you people talk about, all grand and noble, I was never meant to have it. Each word sliced through Claire like a blade, cold and precise. She gasped, unable to breathe, her heart caving under the weight of his rejection. She looked at him through tear-blurred eyes, searching for a trace of the man who used to love her so fiercely. But that Evan was gone. The man before her now, his expression was unreadable, like he was reciting a stranger's story. Even speaking to her seemed like a waste of his time. Evan, no, she stammered. It's not like that. Please. She wanted to tell him everything. That yes, in the beginning, she used him. But somewhere along the line, his warmth had seeped into every corner of her life. She didn't realize how deeply he mattered, until he was gone. But Evan didn't want to hear it anymore. His eyes turned toward the front door. Claire, I did love you, once. But I stopped myself at the edge of the cliff. I won't fall again. I won't forgive you. Not now. Not ever. This ends here. He paused for one final blow. The one thing I regret most in this life, was ever meeting you. With that, he gently wrapped an arm around Zoe's shoulders and led her inside. Zoe turned her head at the threshold and cast one last look at the two women, no pity, no forgiveness, just quiet resolve. Claire and Maya stood frozen, faces pale, silence hanging like a curtain between them and the man they'd lost. Then came the sound of the door closing behind him. Firm, final, irreversible. The world on the other side had shut them out for good. Evan knelt quietly before the floor-to-ceiling window, gently dabbing antiseptic onto Zoe's bruised skin. I'm sorry, Zoe, he said, his voice low. This is all because I didn't handle my own mess properly. You got dragged into it. Zoe let her shirt fall back over her shoulder and gave him a soft, reassuring smile. It's fine. Don't worry about it, she said lightly, though the sting of fabric grazing her raw skin made her wince. But she didn't flinch away. Not when it was Evan. Not when the person tending her was the one her heart had chosen. Evan looked at her for a long moment, eyes dark and unreadable. Something flickered in his throat, but he swallowed it down and said nothing. Just then, his stomach growled, loud and unmistakable. He chuckled and reached out to ruffle her hair. Hungry? What do you feel like eating? I'll cook. You rest. Zoe's eyes lit up. She'd never had the chance to taste his cooking before. And now that he was offering, her excitement bubbled over. She rattled off a list of dishes, grin stretching from ear to ear, eyes turning into playful little crescents. Evan didn't call her out on her obvious giddiness. He simply smiled, turned, and headed into the kitchen. The cozy home soon filled with the sound of sizzling pans and laughter. 2 people, 2 plates of steaming food, and a rare, peaceful night, quiet joy stitched into every bite. Meanwhile, outside the gates, Claire and Maya stayed rooted to the spot. They waited from sundown to sunrise. Waited so long, the determination in their eyes began to fade, replaced by something hollow and resigned. And from that day forward, things only got worse. Every morning, when Evan opened his front door, the walkway was blanketed in red roses, along with expensive gifts, cards, and perfume-soaked notes. Evan barely glanced at them. He pulled on a face mask, grabbed a broom, and swept every last rose petal and package into the trash bin. He never opened a single one. Claire never even realized he was allergic to pollen. Never knew that red roses, the symbol of passion she thought would win him back, only made him recoil. What he truly loved were sunflowers. Bold. Bright. Honest. Flowers that faced the sun, lived simply, and asked for nothing. His once quiet life had been thrown into chaos. He finally sent Claire a message, returned the gifts to their sender. That night, she showed up again, tears already streaking down her cheeks before she even rang the bell. Evan, I'm so sorry, she cried. Please. I'm sorry. I really am. She wept until her voice broke, trembling in front of him like a wilted leaf. But Evan had grown weary of the emotional manipulation. He dialed the police. There's someone disturbing the neighborhood, he said flatly. I'd like to file a report. Cornered and exhausted, Claire finally backed down. Evan, she said, mustering what strength she had left, something big just happened at the company. I need to fly back immediately. Once things are under control, I'll come back for you. She forced a smile, lips trembling. The police had warned her enough times, if she didn't stop, they'd have to arrest her. And now there was chaos brewing inside her business, someone was stirring the pot while she was away. She had no choice but to leave. But she still wasn't ready to let him go. In the weeks without Evan, Claire and Maya's lives unraveled completely. The new housekeeper turned out to be a disaster. Either her cooking was inedible, or her temper flared at the smallest critique. One afternoon, after Claire commented that the soup was too salty, the woman slammed the utensils on the floor and walked out for good. At school, Maya drifted through her days like a ghost. She clung to the stuffed bear Evan had given her, refused to let anyone else touch it, and whispered, "I'm sorry," into its ears on repeat. Her room was stacked with memory cards, hours of recorded video messages, her tiny voice pleading for forgiveness, praying that someday Evan might see them. Claire fared no better. She was buried under a mountain of company chaos. But the moment she had a spare minute, her fingers found his number. Daily texts. Voicemails. Updates. Kind words. Weather checks. Morning greetings. Night wishes. The ache of missing him pressed harder with each passing day. Memories, raw and uninvited, kept bleeding back in. One evening, she scrolled through her phone, desperately searching for a photo. Any photo. Something of him. But all she found were endless selfies with Jordan. Not a single picture of Evan. Not one. Her hands trembled. How could there be none? Did I really hate him that much? She hurled the phone to the floor. It shattered on impact, but the cold, blinding truth had already broken something deeper. A suffocating pain swept through her chest like wildfire. Only now did she understand what it meant to lose someone. In the beginning, she'd simply felt inconvenienced, one less person to handle the chores. But now the veil had been lifted, and everything she'd ignored came rushing back in. The love she pretended not to feel. The warmth she took for granted. If she hadn't loved him, why would she have married him? If she hadn't loved him, why would she have had Maya with him? Every memory pointed to the same truth. She did love Evan. She always had. But he had been so quiet, so humble, so selfless, his light had become invisible to her. She had mistaken his gentleness for weakness. And now, too late, she saw what she had lost. A heart that beat only for her. A man who had loved her in silence, even when she didn't look his way. She was so deep in thought, she didn't even hear her assistant at first. What? What did you just say? Ms. Sterling, the assistant repeated carefully, we finally tracked something down. Records show Mr. Hart's mother is still alive. She's in a hospital. Also, those donations he's been making to charitable foundations? They all went directly to that hospital's account. Before the assistant could finish, Claire was already grabbing her coat and running out the door. Dean's office, Brookfield General Hospital. Claire sat opposite the hospital director, the polished mahogany desk between them covered with boxes, luxury skincare sets, imported teas, high-end wine, and a donation check. The gifts were generous, but the desperation in her eyes weighed heavier than any price tag. I came to ask about Evan Hart's mother, she said softly, voice tense but controlled. The director pushed the gifts gently aside, letting out a heavy sigh. Ms. Sterling, it's not that I don't want to help. But Mr. Hart's mother, Bella, passed away. She lost her battle with cancer. Claire blinked, disoriented. The words didn't land, her mind instantly rejected them. No, she murmured. That's not possible. I had someone check on her just a few weeks ago. She was fine. How could she suddenly? She reached across the desk and gripped the director's hand, desperation clawing through her. Please. I'm begging you. You have to tell me where she is. I can't find Evan, he's disappeared. If I can just see his mother, he'll come back. He has to come back. The director pulled her hand back gently and stood up, her tone respectful but firm. Ms. Sterling, this is a hospital. We do not joke about life and death. I'm sorry, but there's nothing I can do. Claire's assistant, standing near the door, shrank into the wall. Everyone in Brookfield knew Claire Sterling's reputation: sharp, entitled, unstoppable. He braced himself for an explosion. But it didn't come. Instead, Claire stood slowly and gave a deep, formal bow. Her voice was low, pleading, humble. Please. I'm not here to make trouble. I just want to make things right with him. I know I hurt him, but I'm trying to fix it. I promise, I won't cause anyone harm. The director paused. Something in Claire's eyes made her reconsider. She let out another sigh. Fine. Come with me. I'll show you. Brookfield Cemetery. The car ride was silent. Claire stared out the window, heart hammering harder with each mile. When they finally arrived, the sight stole her breath away. A single stone stood quietly among the rows. Fresh flowers, already wilting. A photo framed in steel. Bella Hart's kind face smiled back. Claire's knees nearly buckled. No, she choked out. When did this happen? The director's answer was calm. The day of your wedding. Her pupils contracted. The memory hit like a freight train. That day, she had thrown a tantrum, deliberately stalling the ceremony just to prove a point. Minutes ticked by. An hour passed. She remembered Evan receiving a call and trying to leave. He hadn't made it to the door. Her bodyguard stopped him cold. No one left until the bride said so. And while she stood there in full gown and makeup, basking in her power trip, his mother had died. She had stolen his final goodbye. And yet, Evan never said a word. Never blamed her. Never punished her. He had simply stayed. Loved her. Kept serving. How deep must a man's love be? To swallow pain like that? To remain gentle through it all? Claire sank to her knees in front of Bella's grave and stayed there until dusk, the wind sweeping through her hair, her tears soaking the marble. She didn't move until the cemetery lights flickered on. Only then did she return to the villa. But nothing about her felt like she had gone home. The villa still carried traces of Evan everywhere. His laughter echoed in the walls, his scent lingered in the air, and his shadow seemed to flicker in the corners, until she reached out, only for it to vanish like mist. Now that Claire had learned everything, his past, his pain, the truth behind his quiet devotion, her heart ached even more. Abandoned by a father who chose another woman. Raised by a terminally ill mother. He had clawed his way through suffering with nothing but grit and love, and still, when he finally had a chance at a family, he gave all of himself to her and Maya. And what had they done in return? Broken him. Autumn leaves turned brittle and fell. Winter came quickly, snow blanketing the city like silence after a storm. In just 2 short years, Evan had completed his master's program with distinction. His name was listed at the top of every department's honor roll. And today was the day of his graduation ceremony. After the closing speeches and a storm of applause, Zoe handed him a bouquet of fresh flowers. "Congratulations, Evan," she said, eyes bright with pride. Nate, standing beside them, smirked. All right, you two, don't get all mushy on us." Zoe flushed a deep crimson, swatting Nate's arm before stomping off. "I'm going. You boys have your moment." It was obvious Nate was playing matchmaker. Evan wasn't blind, he saw it. But in his heart, he couldn't help feeling unworthy of someone like Zoe. When she saw that his tie was crooked, she stepped close and adjusted it without asking. Her fingers moved with a tenderness that made him freeze. "You didn't even notice your tie's all off," she scolded lightly, her tone almost playful. The way she touched him, like a wife fussing over her husband before a big event. Zoe had fallen for him the moment she saw him on campus, stoic, reserved, a man with the weight of the world behind his eyes. And once she'd learned his story, her sympathy deepened into something fiercer, more determined. She didn't just like him. She wanted to protect him. Evan saw the emotion swirling behind her gaze. He stepped back slightly, forcing a chuckle. "It's fine," he said quietly. "It's all over now." "What's next?" Zoe asked. Her voice was soft but hopeful. "I'm going back to Brookfield," he replied. He bent down and gently scratched behind Alice the cat's ears. The familiar sound of her purring made him smile, really smile, not the guarded kind he usually wore. "There's a new project at NASA. They want me to join the research team. It's long-term, probably the kind of thing I'll be dedicating the rest of my life to." He didn't say it aloud, but he also longed to visit his mother's grave. To tell her everything. What he'd achieved. What he'd survived. Zoe beamed. "That's incredible. You're incredible." No one knew better than her just how hard Evan had worked for this. How much he had lost. How far he had come. "Well," she said, eyes sparkling, "just know this, if you ever want someone by your side, I'll be there. And I won't let anyone hurt you again." Evan laughed, warm and real. "Thank you, Miss Harper. I guess I'm under your protection now." They chatted a while longer under the pale winter sun, their breath fogging in the cold. Eventually, Evan returned home to start packing. He had a new life to begin. And maybe, just maybe, he'd no longer have to face it alone. Just as Evan closed the trunk, another suitcase landed at his feet. Zoe zipped past him like a gust of wind, laughing as she hopped into the passenger seat. "Could you put mine in too?" "Thanks," she chirped, flashing a grin. Evan froze for a second, then let out a quiet sigh and shook his head. She never gave up. No matter how many times he had turned her down over the years, Zoe had kept chasing after him with that same relentless energy. The age gap was wide. Their backgrounds, worlds apart. He had no intention of dragging a young woman like her into the chaos of his life. So he did what he always did. He opened the door and said coldly, "Zoe. Out." She blinked, then clung to his arm like a stubborn child. "Take me back to Brookfield with you. I promise I won't bother you." "No." Her eyes welled up, but Evan didn't flinch. His voice was firm, his expression unreadable. Defeated, Zoe pouted, then got out of the car with a dramatic huff. Alice the cat, curled up in the back seat, instantly jumped down and padded over to Zoe, rubbing against her leg with a soft, pleading mew. The little feline's timing couldn't have been more precise, or more persuasive. Evan watched them for a long beat, jaw clenched. Then finally, "Get in." Zoe's face lit up in an instant. She scooped Alice into her arms and strutted back into the car, smug as a cat with cream. Evan saw the silent understanding between the girl and the cat and said nothing. He didn't have to. Brookfield. 5 hours later, they arrived. Much had changed since the day Evan left. The streets felt both familiar and distant, like a memory you could almost touch but not hold. He'd bought a modest home near the university. After unloading the bags and checking that Alice was settled in, he left for the ceremony. The graduation hall was buzzing with energy. Rows of students sat upright in their gowns, anticipation thick in the air. Evan stood backstage, straightening his collar, mentally preparing for his speech. But when he turned his head, two familiar faces stopped him cold. Claire. Maya. His breath caught in his throat. What the hell are they doing here? Should I have the staff remove them? Zoe, ever perceptive, noticed the shift in his posture. She leaned in, whispering, "Do you want me to ask someone to escort them out? This might get messy." Evan didn't even blink. "No. Just a couple of strangers. Let them sit." But seats that close to the stage weren't for casual guests. Someone had clearly pulled strings. Zoe hesitated. "Are you sure?" "They're calling my name," Evan interrupted. "It's fine." The spotlight flooded the stage as thunderous applause erupted. Evan walked out slowly, every movement calm and assured. He looked poised, powerful, like someone who had finally reclaimed his life. From the audience, cheers rang out. All except for one woman who sat frozen in her seat, her face dark as a storm cloud. Claire watched as Evan and Zoe exchanged a few quiet words on stage, comfortable, close. Too close. Something inside her snapped. If not for the formal setting, she might have already stormed to the front and made a scene. As Claire sat in the audience, 1,000 memories crashed over her like a tidal wave. All those years. All the money. All the careful plans she'd executed, just to bring Evan back into her life. She had even decided that today, under the spotlight, in front of everyone, she would propose to him. But Zoe's presence had shattered that fantasy like glass underfoot. Beside her, Maya tugged at her sleeve, her eyes wet with tears. "Mom, do you think Daddy really doesn't want us anymore?" Claire clenched her jaw and whispered, "Don't say that. Your father's just too soft-hearted. He'll come around. He has to." But jealousy was already sinking its thorns deep into her. A wild, gnawing vine she could no longer control. As soon as Evan finished his speech, Claire bolted backstage. There he stood, taller than she remembered, older somehow. A man she once thought she owned. "Evan," she called out, her voice tentative, almost fragile. But he walked right past her. Not alone, Zoe at his side. They were laughing, heads tilted toward each other like they belonged. Perfect. Effortless. Untouchable. Like a couple written into the stars. The past was gone. And so was she. Claire's breath caught. She couldn't let him walk away again. "Evan," she called again, louder this time. "You're finally back. Do you know how much I missed you these past 2 years?" Her voice cracked with desperation. "You came back for me, right? Let's go to the courthouse right now, let's get remarried." Evan turned to her at last, flashing a polite smile that cut sharper than any insult. "Ma'am," he said calmly, "you must be mistaken. You've got the wrong person." His words were cold. Precise. Final. Claire stood frozen, the weight of rejection hitting her square in the chest. She had thought this was just a phase, that Evan was punishing her for past mistakes. But now, every word he spoke was a bucket of ice poured down her spine. He wasn't coming back. "Evan," she choked, clutching Maya's hand. "She's your daughter. You're just going to abandon her? Leave her fatherless at this age? I'm your wife, your real, legal wife. After everything we've been through, can you really throw it all away? That's enough." Zoe stepped forward, eyes blazing. Her voice sliced through the tension like a knife. "Ms. Sterling," she said sharply, "do you have any idea how ridiculous you sound right now? Talking about love and loyalty like you didn't stomp all over it when you had the chance? If you really wanted to fix things, you should have started long ago. Don't show up now like you're owed something." Claire's composure cracked. Her lips trembled. Her face went pale. And what hurt the most wasn't Zoe's scathing words. It was the silence. Evan didn't speak. Didn't defend her. Didn't stop Zoe. He just stood there. Letting someone else put her in her place. In Brookfield, Claire had always been the untouchable queen bee, the girl who got what she wanted. No one ever dared talk back to her. Not until now. And for the first time in her life, Claire felt something she couldn't control. Shame. "You bitch!" Claire shrieked, eyes bloodshot. "It's you, isn't it? You're the one poisoning Evan against us, trying to climb into his life while stepping over me and my daughter. She took a step forward, her voice rising hysterically. Don't flatter yourself. You're nothing. Evan, he belongs to me, only me. Her hand snapped up, ready to strike Zoe across the face. But Evan was faster. He caught her wrist mid-air, and without hesitation, shoved her away. Claire, he said coldly, his voice cutting like steel. I don't belong to anyone. I am my own person. And as for you, don't come near me again. Every time I see you, I feel sick. The contempt in his eyes was undeniable. There wasn't a trace of love left, only revulsion. The commotion had drawn the attention of security. Several guards moved in, surrounding Claire and Maya, not daring to touch them too roughly, since the Sterlings were major donors. Still, they blocked Claire's path, preventing further escalation. The scene was a disaster, unfolding in front of faculty, guests, and students. Evan took Zoe's hand and quickly led her out the side door. Claire was left on the floor, pushed down in the scuffle. She watched them go, her chest heaving, voice raw. Evan. Come back. Evan, don't leave me like this. But no one turned back. No one even looked. Later that evening, Claire wandered the streets like a ghost, Maya trailing behind her. Happy couples strolled past, hand in hand, laughter echoing through the crisp air. Like a cruel reminder of what she used to have. Somehow, her feet led her to that cafe. The one where she and Evan first met. Through the glass, she saw them, Evan and Zoe, sitting across from each other, talking softly, smiling easily. So familiar. So effortless. So devastating. And for the first time, she finally understood. This must be what Evan had felt when she was sneaking around with Jordan. The knife. The betrayal. The loneliness. Her throat burned. I was a damn fool, she muttered, her voice shaking. I was a selfish, fickle woman. Evan. I was wrong. The regret hit her like a tidal wave. Crashing. Drowning. Unrelenting. She couldn't stand it. She couldn't watch him smile with someone else, not when she had once been the one he loved. She couldn't let go. She took a deep breath, rage and despair colliding in her chest, and lunged for the cafe door. But before she could barge in, a wall of security surrounded her. What the hell do you think you're doing? A woman's voice snapped. You're ready to throw your whole company away over a man? You've lost your mind. It was Eleanor, stepping out from a black Bentley, her expression like thunder. Let go of me, Mom. Claire shouted, struggling against the guard's grip. Enough. Eleanor barked. The board meeting is today. You're coming with me whether you like it or not. She turned to the guards. Take her to the car. I'll handle this. Claire was forcibly escorted into the vehicle, kicking and cursing. Eleanor let out a breath and straightened her coat, then walked calmly into the cafe. She approached Evan's table and sat down across from him with a smile. Evan, she said smoothly. It's been a while. Yes, Evan replied, his tone polite but distant. What can I do for you, Mrs. Sterling? Eleanor said nothing at first, just let her eyes drift over to Zoe. Before she could speak, Zoe stood. Evan, she said lightly, reading the room. It's a bit stuffy in here, I'll step out for some air. She knew what was coming. This wasn't her conversation. And sometimes, the wisest thing a woman could do was to leave before the fire started. Once Zoe stepped out, Eleanor didn't waste a second on pleasantries. She reached into her designer handbag, pulled out a slim check, and slid it across the table. Evan, she said coolly, as you can see, Claire and Maya, they can't live without you. This is $5 million. Consider it compensation. She paused, then added, as if offering a gracious bonus. Each year, that amount will increase by another $1 million. Evan stared at the paper between them, thin, crisp, utterly meaningless. A smile tugged at his lips, bitter and unsurprised. So here it was again. The same old game. The same old arrogance. Eleanor Sterling, trying to buy years of his life as if they were items on a shelf. Her eyes, her tone, her gesture, it wasn't help. It was charity. A transaction. And just like Claire, everything about her reeked of entitlement. Evan gently pushed the check back toward her. "I'm afraid I'll have to decline," he said, voice steady. "But here, take this." He reached into his coat and retrieved a folded slip of paper. His own check. "This," he said, sliding it across to her, "is the amount you paid me years ago. I'm returning it. From now on, I owe nothing to the Sterling family." He met her eyes. "I was grateful back then. Your money gave me a start when I had nothing. But thanks to that start, I've now earned more than a dozen $5 million paydays, without having to answer to anyone." His tone was calm. Respectful. Final. But it was also a slap. Eleanor's expression faltered for the first time. Her lips pressed into a thin line. She had watched Evans rise from afar, knew his brilliance, his growing reputation. But to hear it said aloud, to have it used against her, it stung. Her voice hardened. "Don't get ahead of yourself," she said, eyes narrowing. "This is Brookfield. You think you can outrun me here? One call, Evan. That's all it takes." The threat hung in the air, bold and unrepentant. At the cafe entrance, Zoe had been listening. That was enough. She stormed back in, voice sharp and fearless. "Well, isn't that impressive," she said, standing behind Evan's chair. "When kindness doesn't work, you move to threats. I thought the Sterling family had better tactics than shaking down ex-son-in-laws in public." Eleanor's head snapped around. "And who the hell are you?" she barked. "Did your parents never teach you manners? You don't eavesdrop on private conversations." Zoe didn't flinch. She simply looked at her, cool, steady. Said nothing. And then, from the corner of the cafe, several plain-clothed men stepped forward. Eleanor barely had time to react. One of them spoke calmly into an earpiece. "Mrs. Sterling, it's time to go." Before she could protest, they gently but firmly escorted her out the door. She didn't look back. Sterling Enterprises, Executive Tower, 47th floor. "Ms. Sterling. We've got a disaster, classified files were leaked, our stock's plummeting, and the main corporate account's been wiped clean. There's nothing left. The board is in chaos, shareholders are threatening to pull out, and, frankly, no one knows what the hell to do." Claire stood frozen in place, the words tumbling around her like debris after a storm. She had only been away for a few days. Just a few. The last time, it had been a lie, a fabrication her mother spun to drag her back. But this time, it was real. The company was falling apart. "Then do something," she barked. "Get Damon. Tell him to schedule a press conference. I don't care how, just stabilize the market. Now." The assistant hesitated, swallowing hard. "We've tried. He's gone, Ms. Sterling. Completely off the grid." Claire's face twisted. "Gone? We believe he's fled." A second later, papers flew. Her arm swiped across the desk with violent force, sending reports, memos, and confidential files cascading to the floor like a blizzard of betrayal. The entire room held its breath. Claire stood in the eye of the storm, teeth clenched, chest heaving. Of course. Of course it was Damon. She had trusted him, put him in charge of her company's voice, her public image, her shield. And now he'd vanished, leaving behind a crater of ruin. But why? Why would he do this? Just then, her phone buzzed. She picked it up with trembling hands. One new message. Claire. You threw me to the wolves. Jasmine was a monster. She turned me into something grotesque. You did this to me. And now, every ounce of pain you gave me, I'm sending it back to you. 1,000-fold. The message ended. The screen dimmed. Claire's knees buckled. Jordan. Her mind reeled. That voice. That cold, burning hatred, hidden beneath a stolen identity, behind a reconstructed face. She'd known something about Damon felt off. The mannerisms. The expressions. The eyes. She knew them. But she ignored the instinct. She had ignored it until it was too late. This wasn't a betrayal. This was revenge. The kind that took years to ferment. The kind that learned all your weaknesses, and struck where it hurt most. Jordan hadn't just stolen her company. He'd stolen her legacy. Across the office, her own voice rose in a cracked, broken scream. Smack. The sound of her hand slapping her own cheek echoed against the walls. How blind was I, she whispered. How damn blind. Her legs gave out beneath her, and she collapsed to the floor. No more power suits. No more titles. No more shareholders at her beck and call. Just a woman, alone in an office tower, with nothing left but shattered pride and infinite regret. The once unshakable Claire Sterling, face buried in trembling palms, looked nothing like the queen of Brookfield she used to be. Just another fallen name in the war of love and power. The heavy door slammed open with a thunderous bang. Useless. Absolutely pathetic. A deep, thunderous voice cut through the air like a blade. Everyone in the room froze. Even the air itself seemed to hold its breath. Victor Sterling, patriarch of the Sterling Empire, stood at the entrance like a storm cloaked in Armani. Behind him, two bodyguards dragged Eleanor in by the arms and tossed her onto the marble floor without ceremony. Claire's face drained of color. "Dad," she whispered, rising slowly. "You're back?" Victor's glare could have shattered glass. "You dare call me Dad after what you've done?" he growled. "I spent a lifetime building this company brick by damn brick, just for you to almost burn it to the ground over a man?" His hands trembled, not with weakness, but with barely restrained fury. "You let some conniving little bastard infiltrate the company, wreck our systems, steal from our accounts, and turn the boardroom into a circus. And where were you?" He pointed a finger at her chest. "Crying. Like a child. In your office. Over love." Each word hit Claire like a slap. "I raised you to lead. To stand tall. To protect what's yours. Not to chase after a man who couldn't care less. Not to drive away the only partner who ever had our back." Claire stood motionless, spine rigid, fists clenched at her sides. But her voice never came. Because she knew, this time, her father wasn't wrong. Victor wasn't done. As the firstborn of the Sterling family, you were handed the throne, and what did you do with it? He scoffed. You blurred the line between heart and duty. You embarrassed us in public. You lost Evan, the one man I ever approved of. Then, the words Claire had dreaded most. You are no longer fit to lead. Across the room, Eleanor burst into tears. "Victor, please," she choked out, stepping forward. "Can't you see she's not well? She's pale, exhausted. If you keep pushing like this, she'll break." Victor turned slowly, eyes like steel. "You don't get to speak." His voice dropped an octave, cold, calm, dangerous. "You coddled her. You defended every mistake. Every tantrum. Every wrong turn. You covered her eyes while she walked into fire. She made her bed. Now let her lie in it. Eleanor clutched her chest, breath hitching, but Victor didn't even blink. And don't you dare throw that mother's love nonsense at me, he snapped. I was out there expanding our reach, keeping this family alive. And now I come back to ashes. Tears rolled down Eleanor's cheeks. I did it all for Claire. You did it for your own damn ego, Victor shot back. Playing queen behind my back, making decisions she should have made herself. You robbed her of consequence. Then his voice dropped to a deadly whisper. Do either of you even realize who you picked a fight with? He leaned forward slightly, eyes narrowing. Zoe Harper. Silence. Eleanor stiffened. Claire blinked, stunned. Victor continued, enunciating each word with terrifying precision. The only child of the Harper family. You think we're powerful? They're the kind of people who can erase your name from a bank server with a single phone call. If Zoe Harper so much as raises her hand, Sterling Enterprises won't survive the hour. And just like that, the world tilted. The silence was deafening. Claire felt her knees falter. The room no longer belonged to her. The company no longer belonged to her. Even her family's future now hung by a thread, in someone else's hand. Her father's final words were not angry. They were final. You made your choice. Now live with it. Eleanor and Claire stared at each other, eyes brimming with tears. Neither of them said a word, because there was nothing left to say. In that long, heavy silence, mother and daughter broke. They collapsed into each other's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. Claire clung to her mother like a child drowning in regret. The reality had finally hit her like a freight train. She had betrayed Evan's love, and failed her father's expectations as the future of the Sterling family. She dropped to the floor, broken. The heiress of an empire, now nothing more than a weeping woman in a silk suit. Then. Bad news. Jordan escaped, he's taken Miss Maya. The door slammed open. A security officer burst in, panting as he handed a phone to Victor. Victor's eyes locked on the screen. In the grainy video, Maya sat tied to a chair, arms bound tightly behind her back. Her eyes, wide, terrified, pleading, stared straight into the camera. Her mouth was sealed with duct tape. She could only whimper. Beneath the video, a single sentence scrolled across the screen. If you want her alive, prepare $5 million. Otherwise, I won't be responsible for what happens next. Victor Sterling had been threatened many times in his life. But nothing enraged him more than this. His fist crashed down on the mahogany table, the sound like a gunshot. His voice roared with fury. Find him. I don't care what it takes, turn the city upside down if you have to. Bring him to me, dead or alive. The look in his eyes, sharp, merciless, made even the guards recoil. Across town, Evan had received the same video. He stared at it in silence, his face unreadable. He hadn't spoken to Maya in a long time. The bond between them had long since frayed. But blood was blood. And something in his gut twisted at the sight of her terrified face. After a long pause, he picked up his phone. Get me the police. Now. He knew this wasn't something to handle in private. A kidnapping required professionals. And if Claire and the Sterlings were involved, things could spiral fast. Before heading out, he made one call to Claire. Jordan's trying to extort $5 million. He's got Maya. There was a beat of silence. Then Claire's voice came through, flat and distant. Got it. I'm busy. Hanging up. Click. That was all. With Sterling money and police intel working together, Jordan didn't get far. He was cornered at a train station 3 towns over, trying to bribe a clerk for a fake passport. He didn't resist. He didn't confess. He said only one thing. I want to speak to Evan. just Evan. The request made its way up the chain. Evan was feeding Alice when the call came. He paused, spoon halfway to her mouth. Ran a hand through her curls. Kissed her forehead. Then looked across the table at Zoe. A quiet understanding passed between them. He stood up, grabbed his keys, and left for the precinct. County jail, interrogation room. The stench hit him first. Then the figure sitting behind the scratched steel table. Jordan. Or at least, what was left of him. His face was gaunt, hollowed out. His skin sallow, lips cracked, eyes ringed in angry red. Hair matted. Clothes filthy. A shadow of the man he used to be. Evan stopped in the doorway. For a long second, he said nothing. This man had once tried to steal his family, his dignity, his peace. Now he was begging for a sliver of attention, chained to a chair in a concrete cell. Poetic, in a way. Evan took a step forward. Folded his arms. "You wanted to see me," he said coldly. Jordan looked up, eyes sunken but gleaming with some flicker of emotion, hatred, envy, or desperation, it was impossible to tell. The second Jordan saw him, the cracks began to show. His dull, lifeless eyes flared with movement. Then, suddenly, he sprang to life, like something feral waking from hibernation. "Evan." His voice was low, manic, trembling with rage. "You're here. Feeling smug, huh? Must be nice. You, a nobody, a piece of street trash, living like a king now. Why you?" Evan didn't flinch. But Jordan wasn't done. His bloodshot eyes burned with a hatred so deep it seemed to rot him from the inside. "You're a disease," he spat, voice rising, raw. "What's so special about you, huh? Why'd Claire pick you over me? Why?" His voice cracked. Then twisted. "You know what I went through? After she dumped me? Jasmine kept me like a dog in a cage. She'd beat me when she was bored, drag me out like a prop to old men for a few $100. Like I had no soul." He was yelling now. Spit flew from his mouth, tears streaked down his cheeks. The madness had fully set in. "I couldn't take it anymore. I escaped. Took out loans. Got surgery. Became Damon. And I destroyed the Sterling Group from the inside out." His words dropped like stones into the silence. Then, softly, brokenly. "All I wanted, was enough money to pay off my debts. Then vanish. Start over. Live quietly. But you just couldn't leave me alone. Why couldn't you just let me go?" His voice collapsed into a whimper. Tears soaked the sleeves of his filthy prison uniform. Evan sat there. Unmoved. Not because he hadn't heard every word. But because none of it mattered. He waited. Let the silence stretch long enough to make the point. Then asked, almost gently. "Are you finished?" Jordan looked up, face twitching. Evan rose to his feet. "You keep blaming me for everything you broke yourself. You made those choices. You traded loyalty for luxury, and love for leverage." He walked slowly toward the door, voice still calm. "You think I pity you? I don't. You and Claire were made for each other. Greed. Vanity. All dressed up in fake charm and ambition." He turned halfway, one hand already on the door. "And Jordan," he added without looking back. "Don't think I didn't see your little game. Jasmine was arrested before I got here. Don't try to pull me down with you. You're facing federal time now, kidnapping, fraud, extortion. You won't be walking out of this place anytime soon." A pause. "Rot in here. It suits you." Jordan's mouth opened. But no words came. Because the act was over. And Evan had already walked out. The sun was high and golden. Evan stepped into the light, breathing in the crisp fall air. The weight of the jail, the accusations, the ghosts, all of it stayed behind that steel door. He closed his eyes. Let the wind wash over him. And for the first time in a long while, he smiled. The verdict came down swift and final. Jordan, charged with multiple capital felonies, fraud, kidnapping, identity theft, and attempted murder, was sentenced to death. Execution, immediate. Jasmine, as his accomplice and a failed conspirator to murder, received life in prison without parole. The Sterling Group, which had teetered on the brink of collapse, was salvaged by Victor's iron-fisted leadership. His reputation for ruthless efficiency proved true. He dismantled the rot, restructured the board, and kept the company afloat. Slowly, it began to breathe again. Claire, removed from her CEO position without ceremony. Together with Maya, she was quietly sent off to Switzerland, away from public scrutiny, and far from Evan's life. With the chaos behind him, Evan returned to the stars. His career as an astronaut soared, literally. He became one of NASA's most decorated pilots, earning medals, media headlines, and accolades from every scientific institute in the country. But through it all, one person remained. Zoe. She didn't leave. Not when he was cold. Not when he shut her out. Year after year, she stayed. And slowly, her warmth cracked through the ice he'd built around himself. Until, one day, Evan realized. He wasn't afraid anymore. Downtown Plaza, 6 p.m. The sky glowed orange. The giant LED screen on Times Square's main tower lit up with a video. Pedestrians slowed to watch. Evan's face appeared. Dressed in his formal NASA uniform, hair slightly tousled, he looked straight into the camera. "The first time I met you," he began, "I couldn't believe how much you talked. Seriously. You were loud. But then, over time, I realized that every word came with love. And warmth. And joy. And somewhere along the way, I started falling for you. When you confessed to me, I panicked. I didn't think I was worthy. I wasn't ready. I wasn't enough. So I worked. I studied. I launched myself into the stars, thinking maybe one day I'd be good enough for you. You stood by me through every crash and burn. So, now I want to stand by you, forever. Zoe, will you marry me?" Gasps rippled through the crowd. Everyone turned, eyes searching. And there she was, Zoe, frozen in the middle of the plaza, hands covering her mouth, tears spilling down her cheeks. She ran. Straight into Evan's arms. He caught her like he always had, steady, strong, and smiling. "Stop crying, dummy," he whispered, tucking her hair behind her ear. Zoe looked down at the ring on her finger, still in disbelief. "Pinch me. I must be dreaming." Evan tapped her forehead with his finger. "Ow. You hit me?" He shrugged, smug. "You said pinch, not gently." She smacked his shoulder and turned to run. He chased. "Come back here. Make me." They sprinted across the plaza, laughing, hearts light, the whole city blurring into background noise. And just like that, love won. 2 days later, Evan and Zoe were back at City Hall, standing side by side at the clerk's office, filing paperwork for their marriage license. Their fingers stayed laced the entire time. To celebrate, Nate made the drive all the way from Brooklyn to Brookfield just to treat the happy couple to dinner. He raised his wine glass with a teasing grin. "You two better cut it out before I start charging for third wheel therapy. Seriously, though, congrats. You guys deserve everything good in the world." Evan and Zoe exchanged a quiet glance, full of laughter and love. June 6th, a date worth remembering. They chose June 6th for their wedding. It was Zoe's birthday. It was the day they first met. And now, it would be the day they said forever. The chapel was bathed in soft sunlight. Ivory balloons drifted above rows of rose-covered pews. Strings played a soft melody. Every seat was filled, friends, family, co-workers. Smiles everywhere. When Zoe walked in, dressed in a gown that shimmered like starlight, the world seemed to fall silent. Evan's eyes never left her. At the altar, the priest spoke gently into the microphone. Evan Sterling, do you take Zoe Brooks as your lawfully wedded wife, to love, to honor, through rich or poor, in sickness and in health, for all your days? Evan looked at her with eyes that had weathered storms and found harbor. I do, he said. Then it was her turn. Zoe Brooks, do you take Evan Sterling? Tears welled in Zoe's eyes. She nodded before the priest could finish. I do. 1,000 times over. Cheers erupted. The couple kissed, tender and true, as husband and wife. And so begins always. The crowd clapped, whistled, threw flower petals into the air. Zoe laughed through her tears, her hands wrapped tightly in Evan's. Sunlight streamed through the chapel windows, catching the rings on their fingers. 2 bands. 1 promise. He leaned in close and whispered. Here's to forever. Forever, she whispered back. And just like that. Their story wasn't ending. It was just beginning.